Welcome back to the deep dive. You handed us a stack of documents alleging that, well, that gravity control has been secretly operational for decades.
Yeah,
And today, we're cutting right to the heart of those claims.
we really are.
We are diving into sources that suggest this fundamental technological secret, that humanity is still using what they call Earth-destroying primitive fuels.
Right.
While the means to control gravity and get this revolutionary propulsion has been hidden in black projects since the 50s.
It's a stunning premise. Our mission here is to trace this secret history of what's called electrogravitic experimentation.
Okay.
And we're going to do it mostly through the lens of physicist Paul LaViolette's research. We'll be connecting the dots between Nikola Tesla, this often overlooked pioneer T. Townsend Brown,
And the B-2 bomber.
and the B-2 advanced technology bomber's alleged non-conventional propulsion.
So the core idea here, the concept driving all of this, is something completely revolutionary, field propulsion.
Exactly.
You have to forget everything you know about rockets, right? The whole idea of throwing mass out the back to go forward.
That's completely gone. The sources describe a craft that doesn't push against anything at all.
How does that even work?
The idea is that the ship, it artificially produces a powerful gravity potential well just ahead of its bow.
A gravity well, like a dent in space-time.
Precisely. And since gravity is always attractive, the ship is just constantly falling forward toward that attractor that it's generating itself.
So wait, if you just keep making this low-pressure gravity zone in front of you, you're just falling forever without using fuel or pushing out mass? That sounds like a cheat code.
It's a profound shortcut, yeah. The ship isn't fighting inertia in the way we think of it. And since the energy is only used to generate and maintain the field, not to accelerate the mass,
Then what?
then the calculations suggest this ship could reach nearly the speed of light. And maybe, just maybe, far beyond it.
Okay, let's unpack this history. It starts surprisingly early and surprisingly simply.
It does.
We have to begin with Thomas Townsend Brown, born in 1905. The guy was seemingly obsessed with space travel from the get-go.
His foundational work began in high school, which is just, incredible to think about.
In high school?
Yeah. He was experimenting with a Coolidge X-ray tube, the kind you'd find in an old dentist's office. And he mounted it on a really sensitive balance.
Okay.
And he was just applying high voltage to the plates inside that tube.
And when he flipped the switch?
The tube moved. It created this strange, inexplicable thrust, seemingly from nothing.
Wow.
He realized pretty quickly it wasn't the X-rays doing it. He figured out the thrust was directly related to the high voltage itself, that somehow this intense electrostatic charge was messing with the tube's gravity field.
That's the moment.
That's the moment electrogravitics was born.
So this insight led to what we now call the Biefeld-Brown effect. He scaled up his tests with these things he called gravitators.
Right, which were basically just large high-voltage capacitors,
Yeah.
built to maximize this weird effect he'd found.
So what were the actual results? What did he see in the lab?
The results were very specific. When he energized one with up to 150,000 volts of DC,
That's a serious jolt.
a very serious jolt, the gravitator consistently developed thrust in one direction, always toward the positively charged electrode.
And he could measure this.
Oh, yeah. The metrics he recorded were provocative. A 10-kilogram device generated about 0.1 kilograms of thrust.
So that's about 1% of its own weight. It was lifting itself by 1% just with electricity.
Just with electricity.
That 1% is interesting, but how did he connect it to gravity? How did he prove it wasn't just some other weird electrical phenomenon?
That is the crucial part. He would take the device and orient it upright on a very sensitive scale.
Okay.
When the positive end faced up, the whole thing got measurably lighter.
Lighter.
And then when he flipped it so the negative end faced up, it got heavier. He was literally changing the weight of an object just by applying high voltage DC.
That's the part we need to spend a minute on, the intellectual leap. What was his theory? How does electricity create this localized change in weight, this gravity well and hill?
Brown proposed that these intense electrostatic fields were actually warping the local space-time continuum.
You went there.
He went there. The positive charge side forms what he called a matter-attracting gravity potential well, a low spot.
And the negative.
The negative charge side forms a matter-repelling gravity potential hill, a high spot.
So you're creating a steep gradient, a literal hill next to a hole, and the device is just It's being pulled toward the positive charge. It's surfing its own self-generated, localized gravity warp.
That's exactly it. And the force it developed was directly proportional to the capacitor's mass and the voltage squared.
So heavier and more powerful means a bigger effect.
A much bigger effect. That was the principle he took forward.
And with that discovery verified, he immediately saw the aerospace potential. That's when he goes from lab gear to those, those famous experimental flying discs.
Yep. He mounted these saucer models on a carousel, energized them with about 50,000 volts.
And this got attention?
It caught the attention of the Office of Naval Research, but they were skeptical at first. The standard dismissal was electric wind.
Ion wind?
Right, ion wind. The idea that the device was just pushing against ionized air, which would mean it's totally useless in the vacuum of space.
That's the mainstream argument, right? It's not gravity, it's just pushing air. But the sources say Brown dealt with that head-on.
You did. This is critical.
Yeah.
He performed later tests inside a vacuum chamber.
Okay.
And even when he enclosed the device in plexiglass to trap any possible ions, the thrust persisted.
So it wasn't the air.
It was not the air. And not only that, the thrust was confirmed to be several orders of magnitude larger than ion wind could ever generate. This proved the force was electrogravitic.
The military, seeing this confirmed thrust, this lift potential, they must have started taking him very, very seriously.
Oh, they did. This led to a huge top-secret proposal. In 1952, Brown submits a confidential plan to the Navy, codenamed Project Winterhaven.
What was the goal?
The proposal was to develop a manned flying saucer interceptor based entirely on this technology. He was projecting a capability of Mach 3, over 1,100 miles per hour.
Wow.
And he urged them to structure it with the same secrecy and resources as the Manhattan Project.
Speaking of wartime secrecy, the sources bring up the Philadelphia experiment. We know Brown was deep into high-intensity electrostatic fields. Was he connected to that infamous vanishing ship story from '43?
The connection is murky, but highly suggestive. The experiment was supposedly designed to make a naval vessel invisible, using intense magnetic or pulsating electrostatic fields.
Brown's specialty.
Exactly. The source notes there are conflicting accounts of where Brown even was at the time. One says Norfolk Navy Base, the other says Lockheed Vega.
That kind of duplicity definitely fuels suspicion.
It does, especially given the alleged catastrophic side effects of that experiment. Crew members fused into the ship's metal. Just horrifying stuff.
It definitely shows how intense and maybe reckless this research was at the time. But let's track how this all went from open R&D to black ops. Because in the mid-50s, aerospace companies were talking about this stuff openly.
Absolutely. Aviation intelligence reports were using terms like dynamic counterbury.
Which is basically anti-gravity propulsion.
It is. And barycentric control, which is controlling gravity. This wasn't fringe stuff. This was industry-leading R&D.
A scientific space race was on? Which companies were in on it?
By 1958, the list is a who's who. Glenn Martin, Douglas, Convair, Bell, Lear, Sperry-Rand, Grumman, Lockheed, Hughes Aircraft, they were all in.
And then silence? What happened? What was the clampdown?
By 1959, the field it vanished.
Mm-hmm.
An industry insider is quoted in the sources saying that if any real successful results were achieved, you should expect the usual clamp to be tightened down.
So the results were achieved?
It seems they were.
Right.
It was classified at the highest levels, and the public conversation was just terminated.
So if the tech is decades ahead, the physics behind it must be too. It can't be what's in the textbooks. What's the theoretical foundation for these black world projects?
Informants describe it as subquantum kinetics, or sometimes just ether physics.
Ether physics.
Yeah. They claim conventional physics relativity, quantum mechanics, is actually grossly in error for these kinds of applications.
Seriously?
In the Black Project world, they apparently call Einstein's work classical concepts, like it's old news.
So what's the core difference? Why does subquantum kinetics allow for gravity control?
The key is the existence of a dynamic reactive ether. That medium filling all of space that conventional physics abandoned 100 years ago.
Right.
This framework supports Brown's work and, very interestingly, Tesla's work with longitudinal shock waves. This ether is what you manipulate to create the wells and hills. It's a prerequisite.
So let's talk about the most famous alleged application of this, the B-2 bomber. We know it's a stealth aircraft. How does this secret physics allegedly power the thing?
The sources make a very direct, very explicit claim. The B-2 uses electrostatic field generating techniques.
How?
It charges its jet engine exhaust to a highly negative potential, At the same time, it electrifies the leading edges of the wings to a positive potential.
So it's a massive flying Biefeld-Brown device. It's generating that gradient from the front of the wing all the way to the tail exhaust.
Exactly. It creates a highly nonlinear electric field from fore to aft. The sources just state it bluntly. The B-2 is the realization of the concept Brown first proposed in Project Winter Haven.
So it's a hybrid. It's using conventional thrust and electrogravitic propulsion.
That's the claim.
That's a staggering claim. But it also explains the stealth advantage, doesn't it? How does charging the leading edge affect aerodynamics?
It minimizes turbulence. The intense electrostatic field it deflects the approaching air strains.
So less drag.
Significantly less drag. The craft becomes way more efficient, way faster, and crucially, it minimizes the thermal signature. That's a huge part of what makes the B-2 so stealthy.
Okay, let's go even further out. Beyond the B-2, the sources talk about even more exotic concepts. Directed energy beams. Let's talk about Project Skyvault.
Right. Run by Rocketdyne and North American Rockwell, and it dates all the way back to the late 1940s.
What was it?
It was research into propulsion, using intense microwave beams. There were reports of craft being ground-launched by these huge, upward-pointing microwave horns.
But the propulsion wasn't just pushing it, right? It was something else.
It wasn't electromagnetic in the traditional sense, no. The effect only worked on materials with a very specific magnetic property.
Which suggests incredible material science. The sources also say this was insanely dangerous if you got it wrong.
It was highly frequency sensitive. If the microwave frequency was off by just a little bit, the source material warns the target object could just instantly vaporize. Yeah. One scientist told a story about a bluish microwave beam that, when it was tuned wrong, blew a hole clean through a thick lab wall and kept going through an embankment outside before they could shut it down.
That's power on an almost unimaginable scale. Which brings us back to the materials. What kind of composites are we talking about here?
They're likely what we now call metamaterials. These aren't natural. They're engineered structures designed to have both negative electric permittivity and negative magnetic permeability at the same time.
In simple terms.
They react in a completely counterintuitive way to electromagnetic energy. And you can exploit that to generate a propulsive force when you hit them with a focused microwave beam.
And there's a paper trail here that just went cold.
There is. For a short time, DARPA was openly funding research into magnetic metamaterials for electric drive and propulsion. Then, somewhere between July and November of 2007, every reference to it was just scrubbed from their website.
It went black.
It went black, became too sensitive for even theoretical public discussion.
So if we turn these forces up to 11, beyond microwaves, the sources talk about a pure gravitational impulse device. Dr. Eugene Podkletnov.
Yes, using high-voltage discharge in superconductors. This was a true gravity pulse generator.
And what did it do?
It created a momentary, extremely powerful repulsive force, a gravity beam that pushes things away.
And they proved it was gravitational.
They did. They tested it on pendulum bulbs made of different materials.
Yeah.
And everything deflected by the exact same amount for a given voltage. The force scaled with mass. That's the signature of gravity.
What was the magnitude of the force?
The initial calculation showed a momentary repulsive force of up to 500,000 grams.
Let me just stop on that number. 500,000 Gs. That's not just propulsion. That's a world-changing event if you unleash it. What happened at higher power?
At higher voltages, around 10 million volts, the impulse was so strong it caused visible physical damage. It could dent a 1-inch thick steel plate.
Dent it.
Or punch a 4-inch hole clean through a concrete block. The forces were scaling dramatically.
If we connect that power to the big picture,
Yeah.
to interstellar travel, what are the implications?
This technology, by accelerating the very ether frame within the beam, could allow for superluminal travel, faster than light.
Okay.
Under these principles, a ship accelerating at just 10 grams, which is powerful, but it's not 500,000 grams powerful,
Right.
could reach 85% of light speed in 1 month.
That's already revolutionary, reducing years to months. But the source suggests it could be even more.
Oh, much more. If these methods were harnessed to get a craft to, say, 200 times the speed of light, 200 CEC, then a journey to Alpha Centauri
4.37 light years away.
could theoretically take 1 week.
1 week.
This is the realm of true interstellar travel,
Yeah.
made possible by controlling gravity.
So we have decades of classified research, working physics, prototypes. Why is NASA still talking about building these prohibitively expensive chemical or nuclear rockets? This brings us to the NASA black hole.
Yeah. The source material details how NASA's 1991 Space Exploration Outreach Project. It was supposed to gather innovative ideas, but it deliberately censored submissions.
What kind of submissions?
Technologies like electrogravitics, inertial drives, they were actively removed from the final reports. Just disappeared.
So what kinds of ideas did NASA favor in that report?
They favored incredibly dangerous or economically impossible ideas, like explosion-driven spacecraft,
You mean?
literally detonating nuclear bombs behind your ship, or antimatter propulsion. The report notes that with our current multi-billion-dollar facilities, it would take 1,000,000 years to make 1 milligram of antiprotons.
Wait, they gave serious consideration to tech that takes 1,000,000 years to fuel, but they excluded the technology perfected by T. Townsend Brown.
That is the core finding. The source concludes the whole project was basically a one-way information-gathering intelligence operation.
It wasn't designed to find new ideas.
It was designed to discourage NASA from ever pursuing the technologies that had already been taken, the ones sequestered in black programs for decades.
So the ultimate synthesis of this deep dive seems pretty clear. T. Townsend Brown's vision was realized, but it was realized exclusively in the shadows.
Right.
Our sources claim that black program technologies are at present at least 50 to 100 years ahead of those used in the commercial world.
And that gap, it's an economic and environmental tragedy. If you combine these anti-gravity concepts with free energy principles like the Searle effect, this knowledge could fundamentally solve huge human problems. Global pollution, power generation, the final challenge of interstellar travel.
Which leaves us with the final provocative thought from these documents. If humanity has access to technology that could eliminate pollution, provide limitless clean power, and conquer the stars, why are the powers that be still following a program of controlled evolution that forces us to rely on primitive, dirty fuels and keeps this knowledge perpetually secret?
What are we all giving up by allowing this knowledge gap to persist?